The big bad Bruins are looking straight up bad these days, but could sinking in the standings actually be a good thing?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, April 2nd, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a special shout out to those everydayers out there. Thank you so much for subscribing, listening, and for supporting the podcast. Today on the podcast, we are going to discuss last night's loss to the Washington Capitals, whether the Bruins are really putting their best foot forward as they continue to drop in the Eastern Conference standings. We'll also update the tank as the Bruins are now in position for a top 5 pick in the NHL entry draft. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan. I have been covering this team for various outlets for 20 years. I was a full-time hockey news writer for The Score and have been hosting this podcast since 2019. The Bruins have not been nearly this bad over the course of this podcast. It's been quite a while since they missed the playoffs, and they're doing that this year in spectacular fashion, despite what Joe Sacco might be saying in terms of trying to put a positive spin on things right now. The Bruins have lost 9 consecutive games. They're 0-8-1 over that span. David Pastrnak scored twice last night for the Bruins, and the interim head coach would like to make you believe that guys are out there trying to get a win and that he's trying to optimize the lineup to that end. He said you want to make sure you keep battling, you keep playing through it. He thought they did that tonight or last night. They're playing hard right to the very end. But at the same time, you're making lineup decisions that kind of betray that goal. You're keeping Fabian Lysell, for example, out of the lineup while continuing to deploy Patrick Brown, continuing to deploy Vinny Lettieri, although he did score last night. Great for him. And you're also putting Jeffrey Viel in the lineup over the talented youngster. Now, you could argue that, and he did, that they were kind of sheltering Lysell against a very tough opponent. They knew it was going to be kind of a bruising game, and that the Washington Capitals are, of course, a very good team. But Fabian Lysell has been playing well despite already being sheltered, right? If you look at his numbers so far in the 5 games he's played for the Boston Bruins, he's got while on the ice, the Bruins have a shot attempt differential of 55%. He's been on the ice for 51 shot attempts for, 41 against. That's tops among all Bruins forwards this season. Yes, very small sample size. He's got a positive shot differential when he's on the ice, 22-16. Goals are 3-3. But he's been out there helping generate offense for this team. He has 9 shots in the 5 games. He's got 17 shot attempts, 5 scoring chances, 3 high danger scoring chances. Like, he is out there trying to make things happen. And to deploy Lettieri, yes, he scored. To deploy Patrick Brown, Jeffrey Viel. You could very much argue that Joe Sacco's not putting the best possible lineup out on the ice. You see a lot of people say, Lysell, he doesn't have it. He's a bust, etc. He's still only 22 years old, and he has played very well in the maybe very well as a stretch, but he has played well and has been a positive impact on the ice in the 5 games that he's played. Yes, he has like 150 or 161 games at the AHL level under his belt, and he has 20, 30, 40 goals, something like that, which isn't, super prolific at the AHL level, but he's been putting in the work. He's been making positive steps forward for this team. And for him not to be in the lineup suggests perhaps a sneaky tank maneuver here by Joe Sacco. Even you look back at Brad Marchand, he had over 100 games at the AHL level, 18 goals one season, 13 goals the next. It's not like he was much better in the AHL than Fabian Lysell has been, and we all know what he emerged as for this franchise. Not saying that Lysell is the next Brad Marchand by any stretch, but just because he spent a prolonged period of time in the AHL doesn't mean that he is not able to make that next step. So you look at the loss, 9 in a row. You see the Bruins are a completely depleted roster lineup since the trade deadline. You look at Lysell having played well in the 4 games since his second recall. Again, leading all forwards in shot attempt differential while on the ice, shot differential. Yes, it's very sheltered minutes, meaning he's getting a lot of offensive zone opportunities, not playing against the opposing team's best players. And you could really make an argument that he should have been in the lineup last night to really see what he can do against one of the better teams in the NHL. Or you look at the losing streak they're on, the fact that they're nearing a top 5 pick territory in the NHL entry draft, and you think, maybe let him sit this one out and put these other guys in so that you can give off the air that you are wanting to match up physically with the Capitals, but then also take a step back offensively. Despite David Pastrnak's best efforts last night, he had his 36th and 37th goals of the season. Morgan Geekie chipping in a couple assists. Pavel Zacha with an assist, as did Mason Lohrei. Vinny Lettieri scored with the primary assist going to Marat Huzi. Yeah, the players don't want to be in this losing position, but if you're not optimizing the lineup to win, you could say, oh, we wanted to match up physically. We're trying to battle to the end. This is a lost season. You might as well just pick a lane, really. If you want to say that you're putting your best foot forward and you want to finish strong, then put the best possible lineup out there. And that included last night Fabian Lysell, not Patrick Brown, not Jeffrey VL, with all due respect to those guys. Or if you're saying, yeah, we want to match up physically, but, let's be honest, this is a game we're probably not going to win, then you put the lineup that you had out last night, take the L, allow Buffalo the opportunity to pass you in the standings, drop to last place in the Eastern Conference, where our Boston Bruins are at the moment, and try to get the best possible draft pick, which they're in prime position for. And there's even an opportunity for them to finish with the 4th best odds at the number 1 overall pick. So pick a lane. All right. If you want to keep winning or you want to try to end this losing streak, put Lysell in there because he's proven that he can be an offensive factor out there. But if you're being honest and you realize this team stinks and that it's better to not pick up points at this point, then don't pretend like, oh, we were protecting him from the big Washington Capitals and we needed that extra beef out there. No, it's for the tank. Let's be perfectly honest here. Joe Sacco knows he's not going to be back likely as head coach. He's serving management at this point, not the fans. And the mandate right now, I believe, is to get the highest possible draft pick. And the Bruins are kind of achieving that goal right now. We'll discuss some more stats, signals to take away from last night's game, as well as look at the Tankathon update here as the podcast continues. Looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm at my desk, driving the boys around, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. But hey, maybe you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch. They have in-shell options that are a classic favorite. Get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. A special shout out to the everydayers. I very much appreciate you. Please do subscribe on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not already. So the Boston Bruins last night, the big stat to take away is the 0 points, 0-8-1 over their last 9 games. And they have now officially dropped to last place in the Eastern Conference thanks to a Buffalo Sabres win last night over the Ottawa Senators. The Flyers, Sabres doing the Bruins a solid by going on a bit of a heater here to wrap up the season. Since the trade deadline, the Bruins are tied with the Chicago Blackhawks for fewest points in the NHL with a record of 2-8-1. The Blackhawks are at 2-9-1. The Bruins, of course, came out of the gate after the deadline with those 2 wins over Florida teams. But since then, 1 point in 9 games. They have a 227 point percentage over that span. Again, only Chicago with a worse number. So, add it all up, the Bruins are now last in the Eastern Conference, and they are 28th in the NHL, just 1 point ahead of the Seattle Kraken, who have an opportunity to overtake the Bruins and give the Bruins an even better shot at a top pick. Now, again, there were some positives last night for the Bruins. David Pastrnak continues to prove that he is, despite Boston's place in the standings, a true MVP for this team. Just imagine where this team would be without David Pastrnak this season. They would just be by far one of the worst teams in the NHL. They already are. And that has been magnified since the trade deadline, where it was a more of a concerted effort to be bad. And you look at his numbers, he had a very slow start to the season, but since January 1st, he has been one of the best players in the NHL, as has Morgan Geekie, to be honest. Those two guys have showed some tremendous chemistry, and it's given Don Sweeney and co. some real food for thought in terms of extending Morgan Geekie and keeping this pairing together, along with Pavel Zacha as a trio that can be effective moving forward. The Bruins need to add secondary, third-level scoring. But again, since January 1st, David Pastrnak, 51 points in 36 games, which is second most in the NHL. He has the 4th best point per game average, 1.42 over that span. And if you look at goals scored, Morgan Geekie, 19, tied with William Nylander. Leon Draisaitl leading the way with 25. David Pastrnak second with 24 since January 1st. So those two guys have been exceptional for this team and really warrants, keeping this pairing together because there is some great chemistry there. Of course, beware of Morgan Geekie's somewhat inflated shooting percentage, but last night his contributions were more on the playmaking side of things, and both of his assists came on goals from David Pastrnak, and they were both primary assists. So that shows you how they can play off of each other. The Bruins were outshot last night. They managed only 4 shots in the first period, 32-24 overall. That continues a trend of, just being wildly outshot. They allowed a shorthanded goal and a power play goal in the first period to put them behind. They did come back, tie the game until Dylan Strome, the one that got away, in my opinion. The Bruins should have made more of an effort to bring him into the mix when he was on the outs in Chicago. He scored the third goal to put the Capitals ahead. They went ahead 4-2, and that was all they needed. On the back end, Henri Jokiharju led the way in terms of ice time, almost 23 minutes. He had 1 shot, 1 block, 3 hits. I think he's a guy that the Bruins should consider keeping around as well. He and Nikita Zadorov, the de facto top pairing at the moment, they've actually played pretty well together, and I think that could be a sneaky, effective second or third pairing for this team moving forward. You think of Charlie McAvoy coming back, Hampus Lindholm coming back. You could have like a Lorei, McAvoy, Peak, Lindholm, Zadorov, Jokiharju. That's not a terrible defense core, especially with your top guys back in the mix. And that, of course, has been a huge factor in their somewhat demise this season. Jokiharju is an unrestricted free agent, but you have McAvoy, Lindholm, Zadorov signed for the foreseeable future. You have Peak signed for 1 more year. Mason Lorei is a restricted free agent, but he will be locked up. So those are like your top 4 at the moment between McAvoy, Lindholm, Zadorov, Lorei. Peak still be around. Lock up Jokiharju. You have a nice lefty-righty mix there, and something to build around for next season. Jeremy Swayman, another tough night. 4 goals on 32 shots, an .875 save percentage. He's been nowhere near good enough this season. I've always been a Jeremy Swayman fan, apologist. He's been fantastic up until this year. But right now, .892 on the season. Still has a .911 career save percentage, which is pretty good. Hasn't even played 200 games yet. And the goalie, what's the goalie breakout threshold for NHLers? That's kind of when the mark where you can really see what a goalie is. And you really need to see a goalie in, quite a few games in order to really get an idea. For forwards, it's like, or skaters, it's about 200 games. For goaltenders, goalies are really weird. Obviously, you can have an up year, down year, but still only has 185 games. Still pretty young, to be honest. Well, he's 26 now, so it's not super young, but you know what I mean. It's his first full season as a starter. He has not lived up to expectations, but I don't think it's time to write him off by any stretch. I mentioned the defensive issues. They don't have an optimal lineup. It's really hard to evaluate his game this season, having missed training camp, etc. But if things continue next season like this, that's a real cause for concern. And of course, he does have that no trade clause that kicks in on July 1st. There has been some conjecture that the Bruins could look to move him. Do you go next season with a Michael DiPietro and Eunice Korpisalo tandem? DiPietro has been very good in the AHL this season. I don't know if it's reached that point yet, but again, he just needs to be much better. I think he's his own harshest critic. He hears all the talk out there, and we'll see what happens with him, but he needs to be much better. All right. That's kind of it for last night's game. We can look at some signals moving forward and take a look at the updated Tankathon standings here as the podcast continues. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, streaming services, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Get control of your spending and budget smarter and save more with Monarch Money. Ty Anderson with a crazy stat on X this morning. The first time the Bruins have been in last place in the Eastern Conference in April since 1997. Of course, that was the year that they drafted first overall, picking Joe Thornton, number 1 overall. I was so excited about that draft. Right in the middle of high school for me. Joe Thornton was one of my favorite players, of course, and I've said it before that Joe Thornton trade was the impetus for me to jump on WordPress back then and start writing about the Boston Bruins. That's when I first started covering this team. Now, the Bruins have their own first-round pick this year, thankfully, and it is looking as though it will be a pretty high one. Will it be as high as number 1 overall? Possibly, but they're going to have a really nice draft pick, and that kind of is the goal right now for the Boston Bruins. You can talk about fighting to the end. You can talk about trying to put your best foot forward, but the ideal scenario right now for the Bruins is not to reel off 7 straight wins to end the season. It's to get the fewest points possible in order to maximize their draft potential. It would be a real wasted opportunity here to move back up in the standings and get a lesser prospect. If you're going to be bad, be big bad and drop as far as you can in the hopes that it is a short-term thing. I've said this before, short-term pain for long-term gain here. If the Bruins are in the same position next season, that is a massive problem. Don Sweeney will need to go. Cam Neely probably will need to go. And you're looking at wholesale changes for this team. But the pieces are there for a quicker turnaround. This is a lost season. Write it off. Get a high draft pick. Spend some money wisely in the offseason. Hope for improvements from some of the guys that are around, including Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, who big money was spent on last summer. Jeremy Swayman in net, of course, and some steps taken forward by the prospects that you have, namely Fabian Lysell, Matt Poitras, Mason Lohrei taking that step forward. There's a path towards a quick turnaround here and getting the highest possible pick, and perhaps a guy who could step in as soon as next season would be huge towards that end. So we're going to update the Tankathon as we have been doing here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast for the last couple of weeks, because that's pretty much the big focus right now. Playoffs long gone. The Bruins right now with a record of 1-8-1 over their past 10. They've lost 9 in a row, and their pick odds have drastically improved as a result. Right now, they are in the 5th spot and have an 8.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, 8.6% chance of getting the 2nd overall pick, 24.5% chance of the 5th overall pick, 44% chance of getting the 6th overall pick. And there's an opportunity still for them, if Seattle can win a couple games, for them to move up. They're still very tight with Philadelphia. They've won 3 in a row. Thank goodness they fired John Tortorella. They've got a real resurgence there. The Sabres finishing strong. They've gone 7-3 over their past 10. So the Bruins getting some help from other teams in the Eastern Conference. They need Seattle there. It was probably too late for them to catch Nashville, but you never know. They could eventually end up in 4th or even 3rd. Again, all these teams really not putting their best foot forward either. The Sharks, Blackhawks, well entrenched in the bottom 2 spots. Could be some movement between Nashville, Seattle, and Boston. Still could be some movement between Boston and Pittsburgh even. There's only 2 points separating those teams, but that would be not great for the Bruins to move back to 8th. So let's run the simulator, see how the Bruins get some luck and can jump into the top 3 or even the number 1 overall pick. Right now, the New York Islanders jumping up 9 spots to get the number 1 overall pick, with everybody jumping down. That would be great for Lou Lamoriello, Patrick Roy, but terrible for our Bruins. Let's run it a second time. You have the Islanders and the Flyers moving up. The Bruins dropping 2 spots. No, thank you. Do not like that at all. A third running of the draft simulator. The Boston Bruins moving up to the number 1 overall pick. Buffalo getting some luck as well. That would be ideal, obviously, for the Bruins. Second running, we have Pittsburgh moving up, Boston moving down 2. Don't like that as much. Let's do it 5th and final time. Bruins staying in 5th, and Seattle moving up a couple spots. So mixed results there, but if the Bruins could, let's say Matthew Schaefer does indeed go 1st overall, that's great. The Bruins won't be targeting a defenseman. The 2 guys we're looking at most would be Michael Misa of the Saginaw Spirit, 134 points in 65 OHL games. And then James Hagens from Boston College, 37 points in 37 games this season. Those would be the 2 ideal players that we would target. So if the Bruins can move in the top 4, that would be fantastic. It would really give us an opportunity to grab one of those guys. We will, of course, talk more about these prospects kind of when the season's done and looking ahead to the NHL entry draft where the Bruins will actually be picking. But for now, I'm Team Tank. It sucks to see the Bruins lose. Sucks to see them in last place. It's embarrassing, but I don't think this is a situation where we're going to be dealing with this for years on end. It should be indeed a quick turnaround, and I'm hopeful the Bruins will be better next season. If not, then heads are going to roll for sure. Thank you once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Please do check out the Locked On NHL podcast next. League-wide stories that matter with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe to Locked On Boston Bruins on YouTube, your favorite podcast app. Special shout out to the everydayers out there. I appreciate you so much. And this is all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every day. Please do take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. And we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.